Welcome to Hort Culture, where a group of extension professionals and plant people talk about the business, production, and joy of planting seeds and helping them grow. Join us as we explore the culture of horticulture. Friends, plants, true leaves, plant people.
I thought you were going
all of the
friends
above.
like country Romans.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought you were going some kind of famous speech there.
Lend me your photosynthetic power.
Yeah.
Lend
me your annuals.
Lend me your chlorophyll.
Yeah. Oh, nice. We'll wordsmith that up a little bit, but yeah.
We're working on it. New intro, new swag gear. Like lend me. I don't know. We'll come
Stop
up with
saying
looking for
swag. We already
ideas.
have people asking us for it.
Yes.
If I keep saying it, I'm manifesting, Brent. I'm manifesting. Okay?
We need horticulture swag. Alexis keeps bringing it up, and we don't have anything.
It's called manifestation. You got to keep throwing it into the universe. You want it to happen. You want that new cool plant. You got to manifest it, and you have to pick the right place at the right time to plant it. And you have
speak
to
it into existence.
Very good, Jack.
Sure, speak it into existence.
Me, every time I go by a tree, I go, "Oh, help me, I'm poor."
Yeah, with the price of nursery stock, I feel that way more and more, especially if it's a good size nursery stock.
Yeah. Well, we usually start off with some sort of like fun little question to get to know, each other. And we have a guest on today. And I think keeping it in the food realm, as I usually do, we'll start with Jack, our guest today. We'll let him introduce himself after he tells us about his favorite snack, like going at the moment, not of all time, just like in the past week or two, you're really into what?
Front loading the snack content.
Wow. Alexis and a snack content. Shocker.
I need inspiration.
Okay. I have been lately really addicted to this avocado and cream cheese chips. Now, I can't remember the manufacturer of it, but this is something that if you put in front of me, it is like heroin.
Oh, wow.
So
good stuff.
It's good stuff. And it's like, I've told my wife, we got to stop bringing this by, because we can't bring this home at all, So it's because honestly, I will go.
What's the chip itself made of?
What's that?
What is the chip itself? Like, is it a corn chip or is it a potato chip or is it
potato chip?
It's
a potato chip with some avocado in it and sour cheese on it. I don't remember the actual. I think she got it at a. Are we allowed to tell grocery stores here?
Oh yeah,
sure.
Oh yeah,
Trader Joe's. Yeah,
there you go.
TJ strikes again.
They are. They have lots of good stuff.
Ironically, my addiction snack that I can't bring home is also from Trader Joe's. So, ironically, but not really, because it's Trader Joe's.
You can bring it home,
it?
but it's a single serving, no matter how big the bag is.
They have. I love them, and I have to put them like in an area that's kind of hard to get to, so that I don't pay attention to them as often when I do bring them home. But it's just like a package of the triple ginger snap cookies. So it's got like the grated ginger, the crystallized ginger, and some other ginger, and they're like small and like perfectly crunchy, and you can have like two of them, and you're like, yes, there's like a little something, So,
and then you have two more. And then you have two more.
Yeah,
two
see,
by
that's
two.
the problem.
Noah's Ark kind of situation. Just
it's more
2 by 2.
exponential. Yeah, 2 times 2.
That's why I have to put them like where I have to really reach, and they're out of sight, out of mind, and then they last a little bit longer.
Which, I mean, that could be 5'8" off the ground or so.
Yeah, it doesn't have to
if you're
be
reaching.
tall.
I can reach. I'm not that short.
When you're hiding snacks, it's always my question: are you hiding them
like
from yourself?
Over a 6-foot shelf. Thank you very much.
I admire your confidence.
Yeah, shimmy around.
I do not have imposter syndrome. Okay, Brett, what is your like go-to snack right now?
So my several I guess my in-laws sent us a box of some Harry and David like pears and summer sausage and cheese and crackers. And so I've been eating that in various permutations and combinations recently. I like the like can't stop, like once you pop you can't stop snack. question better. And I was trying to think if I had an example of that. I have a lot of them. I'm choosing just one. Maybe like caramel corn would be like
Ooh,
slightly
not
Get this
salty
away
corn.
caramel
from
corn.
me.
Oh
Oof.
yeah.
Good stuff. It's
Oh, you
so
like
Ray,
good.
what about you?
the triple the barrels where you get the
Mm,
caramel and then you get like
the
the
cheese.
cheesies and the butter and yeah, that's good stuff.
Sort of
Any of that stuff.
palate cleanse around the going counterclockwise.
Oh
Go around the
gosh,
edges.
yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Any of that stuff is good. It's like almost like fair food to me. It's so good. Future question, Alexis. Fair food. Favorite
Fair
fair
food.
food.
All right, when fair season comes up, State Fair, we'll talk about State Fair at
Ooh,
some.
now that's a tough one. That needs to be an episode, not an intro topic.
Well, Radicus, what's your current snack?
It is spring in Kentucky. It feels like it too. It's been very cool and wet here in
Mhm.
Kentucky. I don't know how it's been where our dear listeners are, but it feels like it's spring here in Kentucky and it's camping season. So I've been craving, and I have not gotten them yet. But I'm going to the store this evening. I'm going to buy them, and I've said it before. You guys know I'm from East Kentucky, from Appalachia. I'm going to have to go with Vienna sausages for my snack. Or as we say in the East, Viennes, okay? Viennes.
The
Viennes.
Viennes.
Mhm.
Not Vienna sausages. That's very presumptuous.
Are you just
Question:
going
do you eat
straight?
the Viennes and the pork rinds together like an Appalachian charcuterie board type thing, or
It's
is
the
that too much?
crunchy and the soft all together. I add some potted meat to glue it together, and I'm in
Yeah,
heaven.
yeah. I
Thank
was
you.
just like an Appalachian charcuterie board. I feel like we could just like make this like
Yes.
some pickled pig's feet, like
Oh, I'm
just.
excited. Oh, that's exciting. That's absolutely. I love it all. I love
Coming
everything you just
soon.
said. Yes. But I don't know. I crave things seasonally, and that's one of the spring things that I don't know. I just got to have it, so I'll get it this evening. So that's
I love it.
not really a snack food, but the way I use it, it is, and I just pop it open. I'm obligated to eat them because you can't seal
Once
them
you
back up.
pop, you can't
Yeah,
stop.
I like it.
Like,
Brett
what are you gonna
started
do
that.
with it? Leave it in
Yeah,
the truck
absolutely.
open? No. Well, we've already told you we have a guest, and we already know his snack that now I am also going to buy. And we'll
Mhm.
let Jack. I'll report back on how quickly I ate the entire bag.
Yeah.
But tell us, Jack, who you are, what you do, a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm Jack Baggett. I am the Kentucky Division of Forestry Urban and Community Forestry Partnership Coordinator. In my probably 35-year career, this is the longest title I've ever had.
Yeah, I would say
It's a
that we
mouthful.
thought our titles were long. Yeah.
Oh gosh, I can't even get it out most of the time. I really need to come up with something just to say. I just say I'm partnership coordinator, for
Yeah.
Kentucky Division of
Okay.
Forestry. So basically, my background has been is my mom and dad were native Kentuckians. My dad was in the Marine Corps, so I kind of moved around quite a bit when I was a kid. But we moved to Kentucky, moved to Lexington for a year, and then we moved out to Bourbon County, which is something Ray knows all about. And
Oh yeah.
we had a farm out there and raised tobacco, had some hogs, and then we had some cattle. And so I did that for a while. Then I graduated from Bourbon County High School and went on down to Murray State University. And down there, I was just an ag major. I was in ag economics. I had no idea anything about horticulture, trees, or anything like that. But I did take one class when I was there as an elective in woody ornamentals. And I'm not saying that brought me into a career in urban forestry, but it kind of started something within
Like a
me.
gateway kind of
It was
a.
a gateway drug.
Yeah,
Sparked your
there you go.
joy. Sparked
It was
some
a
joy.
gateway drug for me. So, and then, and so after that, I got out of college. My very first job in college was, this is pretty cool. I did use my ag degree. I went out to way out in Western Kansas and I bred hogs,
Perfect
I did.
segue.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yep, I bred hogs and that's what I did. I did this about 4 months long. And, people say, basically I was kind of a hog pimp. Yeah, I think you could say. And people would say, well, can't hogs breed? Why do you need to assist them? I go, yeah, you don't really want to know, but yeah,
No, no, you
All the
don't.
details.
yeah, there's a little bit more detail you guys do not want to know about that. So I was kind of a hog pimp. People say, well, yes, how'd you, part of my thing was I put a little bit of Sinatra on, light some candles and stuff like that for them,
Played
and
some
did that for
music.
a while. But yeah, I
Yeah.
only lasted out there about 4 months. So then I came
And out
back
in Western Kansas, all the way out there.
So
Yeah.
probably a
west.
lot of smells.
Yeah, and there's no hogs out there. And the reason why they did that because they wanted to keep all the hogs away from any diseases that could very
Uh,
well happen. So,
Yeah.
and it was a big, huge operation out there. And
was that with the university out there when you were out there in Kansas with the land grant out there? Or
no, this was actually a company called y'all remember DeKalb,
oh yeah,
and they
yeah,
had a
seed corn there.
DeKalb swine breeding
Yeah.
back then. Now they've since sold that to someplace else. And but that's kind of like was my first real job. I got bit by a boar when I was out there. I still had the scar. I would
Ooh.
stand up and drop my pants and show you, but let's just not do that. Because it's pretty. But seriously, 40 years later, I still have a scar.
Yeah, hogs are vicious creatures. They are omnivores. They'll get you. They'll get you.
And I was being stupid, with it. And I thought I could, I'm a farm boy. I know what I'm doing, blah, 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 blah,
You
blah.
only make that mistake once.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, but then I came down back to Kentucky and I took a job. Honestly, I I was a lawn specialist for a while for a major lawn care company. And I did that for about 4 years. And honestly, that was a great job because, what I would do, well, I didn't at the time think it was a great job, but honestly, I not only just sprayed lawns and also took care of trees and shrubs at the time, which we're starting to get in a little bit into more of the woody ornamentals at that. But I had to do all the sales at the time. I had to do all the customer service at the time, complaints.
Mhm.
I actually even had to do collections at the time.
Oh wow.
So that was something that really developed what we call like the soft skills, and that job itself did that. So I did that for about 4 years, and then I ended up moving over to I had a brother that lived in Virginia, right outside Washington D.C., and I moved over with him, and I got a job as a horticulture technician with Virginia Cooperative Extension in Fairfax County. Basically, all I did there was we worked at it. We had a phone booth called the Horticultural Information Line,
Oh,
and I
wow.
worked with like two other hort technicians, and we just answered the phone all day from citizens in Fairfax County asking about gardening questions, just like what you may
Mhm.
have master gardeners do now.
Gotcha.
And,
Yeah.
so I did that for a year or so, and then I got a job up in Cornell University at extension agent up there. And I was a multi-county extension agent. Had like about
Wow.
3 counties that I was responsible for, but I was only responsible for consumer horticulture. So I ran the master
Mhm.
gardener programs in 3 different counties and stuff like that. So did that for a while. Unfortunately, as you all know, with extension, there are some times that funding is an issue, and we
Mhm.
lost our county funding. So I
Mm.
had to leave that job after a year, and I ended up going down to Richmond, Virginia, where worked for Bartlett Tree Service. I was a sales rep for them and also assistant manager at the office there. Learned a lot about tree care, became a certified arborist then, and
Mm.
that's when I really started developing into my skills as an arborist. And then after that, I went back to Extension. They asked me to come back, and I went back to Fairfax County, where I was a horticulture technician. Was there for 4 years as an extension agent. I worked with nursery people at the time, and then also worked with the Master Gardener program. Also ran the farmers markets that we had in Fairfax. We
Wow.
had like 8 of them, and ran those, which were pretty cool. I really loved doing that. Um, and guess what happened again?
Oh no. Here we
Yeah, we
go.
lost county funding.
Man, yeah.
So I left and went back to the private industry, and I ran a tree care company for about 5 years in Frederick, Maryland, which is a really interesting job. Beautiful country up there by the Catoctin Mountains, and I just absolutely loved it. But then I kind of need to find a job that would have some retirement benefits too, and so I went back to Fairfax County as an urban forester, and I was there for 20 years. And for most of that time, I did mostly forest health type stuff. Like we
Mhm.
had like at the time, gypsy moth was a real big problem there. So we had these big,
Yeah.
huge aerial sprays. Now we call them spongy moths, but it was we did that for a while, and I did that for like 12 years, and then we had a huge tragedy. A tree fell onto a car that was sitting in traffic and killed the person.
Mm.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, so it does happen. And this was an old sentinel tree back in the Civil War. And it was a lot of pressure to preserve it. But it was just way too, it fell, and it fell not during the storm, just fell right during the middle of the day. And just somebody happened to be underneath it with their car, stuck in traffic, and unfortunately killed them. So then I became the Fairfax County tree risk assessment person. And I did
Mhm.
that for like 7 years. And that's all I did was to do tree risk assessments. And I go on the private property and just say, hey, this tree is a possibility hazard to the general public. And so you need to get rid of it, and stuff like that. So I did that, which again, I used a lot of that experience I had from my days. My first job is, just most people, once they, it was pretty good. I loved doing that. And then finally, about my last 3 years when I was at Fairfax County, I was there was an opening that came open in the what we call the development side, where I would go in and I review development plans, and then I would also work on construction sites, making sure that companies were following, developers and contractors were following our tree preservation ordinances and our tree in other ordinances. You also think too, as I would look at zoning codes and all that, and occasionally we had like these minor zoning codes that would be like, it's just like minor stuff that doesn't have to go through the zoning appeals. I'm getting too deep, but there's a good story because it was chickens. People were keeping chickens in their backyards now. And to do that, you had to go through zoning. Well, when it goes through zoning, there's an urban forestry review of that. Now,
Oh,
I don't really, there's not really a lot I need to do about this, only unless they're building a chicken pen they're going to have to take down a tree. Then I would say, hey, you got to put another tree in, something like that. But I would read these stories. These people would send in these applications, and all these stories would be like, I have a chicken named, we have chickens named Dorothy, such and such, and all that. And I'd be sitting there, and those looking at YouTube at home, I'd be like this, just reading these stories about
yeah,
all
big
these.
narratives.
I'm like, I'm into it. I says, oh my gosh, well, we got to save Dorothy.
Very
Let
personal to
the
someone.
chickens live.
Yes, I mean, I can't do this, and so I just decided just to go ahead and I would just say, but yeah, we would pass those on. I would say no comment,
Yeah.
but let's save Dorothy, and
Yeah. Reviewed enthusiastically, no comment. Yes. Yeah.
but I
It's
did
P.S.
that,
Please save Dorothy.
and I got to my goal where I retired, and from Fairfax County, which again is outside Washington D.C., and we had my wife and I decided where we're going to go, and come on, Kentucky, this is where I'm from. And I got family up near Lexington. And so my wife and I, we settled in Richmond, and that's where we've been living. And I was retired for 11 months, the best 11 months of my life. And my wife said,
maybe not the
get
best
out.
11 months for her. She's like, maybe you need to keep yourself busy,
Your
Jack.
job.
Yeah. Maybe
Yeah.
so.
I don't like how you criticize how I'm cleaning the house or something along
Quit
those
eating my
lines.
snacks. Go back to
Yeah,
work. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Oh, I was ballooning up. Oh, I was. Woo,
Yeah.
woo. Yeah, and it was like it was bad. And so I saw this job, and I go, it's working with Tree City USA. It's working with these things, and I've heard about them before from Fairfax County, because we were Tree City USA in Fairfax County, and so I applied for it, and they hired me, and and I got hired. I've been here about a year and almost a year and a half, I think.
Mhm.
And I'm just barely scratching the surface now, of what we're doing and all that. So that's kind of my background. Sorry, it took a
Yeah.
long time, but
So you, yeah,
No,
you've got a
apologies
really
necessary.
broad, and it's making more and more sense how you ended up in urban forestry on that,
Mm.
that circuit, that route. Yeah, it's almost like you've come full circle now back with urban forestry with some of your experiences.
yeah.
Uh, and so not surprising you're doing what you're doing. But when I met you, you were actually like you were not. I didn't meet you in your office there in Frankfurt where you're stationed. So you get out in communities with your current job with urban
Oh,
forestry through the division, right?
Yo, absolutely. I travel all over Kentucky. I go work with our current Tree City USA's, and I'll tell you a little bit about those in a little bit later.
Yeah.
But I also try to help with communities to become like Tree City USA, and also just help with communities with their tree ordinances, stuff like that, and try to improve their tree care within their cities and towns that they may have. And that's what we try to do. And yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell, what I do. I do a couple other things here too, but the main job that I do have is to really try to get cities to come along to become Tree City USA's, and I also work, which I really love, working with college campuses. And there's something
Mhm.
called, I hate this name. It's called Tree Campus US. Oh my gosh, Tree Campus USA Higher Education. It used to be called just Tree
Mhm.
Campus USA. Now
Yeah.
it's Tree Campus Higher Education because we also have a program called Tree Campus K through 12, which is for elementary schools
Oh.
too. And
I was
so,
wondering about that. I've seen the programs listed 2 or 3 different ways. I was like, is that the same program or is it kind of different? Yeah, I
yeah,
saw it listed as higher ed and K through 12, and I was like, is this the same thing? So
yes.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The K through 12 is a program that's actually done through the Arbor Day Foundation itself.
Mhm.
KDF, we do not have anything to do with that yet. And but I do help with some elementary schools that want to start it up, something like that. I give them tips and all that, and they go through and they can go ahead and become a tree campus K through 12. Which I think is pretty cool because that's a great way for me to. I'm always looking for ways to try to get Tree City USA. So if I get like a school in an area that's doing this, like in a city that doesn't have Tree City USA, then I try to go, hey, let's get the kids involved. Maybe we can get an Arbor Day celebration, which they do as part of that. And then we can possibly maybe go to the town and say, hey, you guys are already doing an Arbor Day celebration. You're pretty much ready to become a Tree City USA. So, and which is a recognition that that we're trying to strive for as many
Yeah.
cities in Kentucky as possible.
So this program, before we kind of travel down that thought,
Mhm.
Tree City USA, that's just not Kentucky, correct? You mentioned the Arbor Day Foundation. Is this a part of a bigger program beyond the state of Kentucky as far as Tree City USA and the Arbor Day Foundation, all these programs, or are they unique to Kentucky?
No, there are in all 50 states, including
Okay, got
in
you.
51, including Puerto Rico, and right now I think every state probably has a. Um, hmm, I would say most states they do have a coordinator, at least an urban forestry coordinator. Many other states have a partnership coordinator like me that do the exact same thing. That we just try to work to try to get communities become Tree City USA. And the idea is that for becoming Tree City USA, is there got to be a few standards to be able to do so. We want them to take care of their existing trees. We don't want them to top their trees. We don't want them to. We want them to take care of them using best management practices in that way. And that's what we try to get them to become Tree City USA, because then that kind of opens up our conversation with them to be able to go, okay, well, let's see what we can do to improve. And we can maybe improve your ordinance. We can maybe do some more, maybe we can try to find a consultant for you to maybe that you all can hire to maybe come by and look at your trees, stuff like that.
So people are contacting you, and it seems like you're reaching out to communities. So it's kind of a two-way street. Sometimes they reach out to you, sometimes you reach out to them
Mhm.
regarding like urban tree health and Tree City USA and related concepts like that. So it kind
It,
of goes both ways. It sounds like.
It does. It does. I do get contacted by communities that want to become Tree City USA. Um, uh, um, yeah, I just got contacted by the city of Catawba other day. So they have a really cool because of the flood that they went back way back when they built Lake. Berkeley or Lake Kentucky Lake. I'm not really sure which one, but it was part of the old town got flooded, just like what Eddyville did. And it used to have like these big, huge trees down there, and but that all got flooded out. So now they want to go ahead and do something more. So I'm reaching out to them, right? Or they reached out to me, and then I'm going to probably go down there and see what they want to do and see what we can do. We'll probably have like a tree planting, get some of the elementary schools involved with it, and move them along to become a Tree City USA.
Well, it sounds like to become a Tree City USA, you've mentioned it sounds like some steps, like,
Yes.
Some basic requirements or parameters. You mentioned the Arbor Day Foundation, and
Can I
that seems
preface
like a big
that
part of that. Yeah, go ahead,
question, Ray,
Alexis.
with why would sorry to interrupt, but why would a city want to become? And I asked, like, I know why. I did Danville's Tree City stuff for 10 years and to do this, but for our listeners who maybe want to ask their city to go be Tree City USA, what are some reasons, like, why a city would be? And then what are the, to lead into Ray's question, what are sort of the requirements? You hinted at them, but a little bit more.
Sure. One reason why they may want to become a Tree City USA is because of the fact it kind of does open them up to a little bit more grant opportunities than what they may have if they are not. Right now, as we know, the federal grant, they're kind of right now we're not seeing a lot of federal grants coming down. Okay. However, we may have one coming. I don't know where this grant is coming from, but anyway, there is something that's coming down the pike that I don't know about too much, but it's going to be something where we maybe all be able to offer some grants to some communities here in the future. And one of those things is going to be is what we're hoping to do is we want them to become a Tree City USA, or they have to already be a Tree City USA. And so that's probably one of the best things because you'll get more opportunities for grants for that. You also get into my little network. And so if I see something that I think that, because we get sometimes these grants that come along that maybe are not federal grants, but maybe there's something that we've heard of before. I'm sending those out to my Tree City USAs, and, for them to look at and to possibly apply for. And then I also help them with their application. We come with ideas, how we make it a little bit better. And that's what they can use me for. And also Chris Wiedemann, who is our urban forestry coordinator, my coworker, he and I, he's also really good at possibly, let's tailor this made so we can get you that grant, and so we can get that just written up just perfectly for you. So, so that's probably one of the main reasons. The other thing is it's just fun, you
Yes.
get to put a Tree City USA, a street sign on your signs. I have a community, Southgate, which is up there by Cincinnati. They have they have earned like 10 signs. Now, every 5 years or every 3 or 4 years, everybody gets a brand new road sign. And most people just, they may stack them somewhere. Once they get 2 or 3, they put them out everywhere. So you walk in that, you're in a Tree City USA community. Many others do, like you can walk in town. Like whenever I see it, whenever I see a Tree City USA sign, you always end up stopping, taking a picture of it and stuff like that. So they get that recognition, get a Tree City US flag, but it's also really good because it kind of really focuses that trees are a really great part of our community, and what it does is just basically just reminds us of this. And then we have Arbor Day. We get the mayor out there to do a proclamation. We get the city council out there to help plant trees. We did this just recently in Owensboro, and I get to talk to some of these people and talk to some of these leaders, and they're like really, once they start doing it, they love it and they want to do it every year. And so it's really cool to be able to see this happening. And so it's a really fun thing to have for their city. And it's not something that whenever I approach a city, you don't have to do a whole lot to be Tree USA. And I'll get into what the standards are, but well, let me do it right now, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go right
Yeah,
ahead.
please go
Perfect.
ahead.
It
Sure.
sounds like, Alexis, you have some experience. Were you part of your
Yeah, and
tree?
Yeah.
Okay,
I wanted
yeah.
to tell him some cool things that we were able to do, and I think having the Tree City USA like designation was really helpful towards stuff, and I just wanted to like brag in a way where he can use that to go brag about stuff. But yeah, tell us how to
Well,
become
I want to
one.
hear that. Definitely.
Yeah, hear the good stuff. Yeah, share that.
Yeah, absolutely. Share that. Okay, but anyway, there's four standards they need to meet to become Tree City USA. And one of the things is they either have to have a tree board, a volunteer tree board, or they have to have a department within the city that is responsible for trees. Now, most cities, like let's say Paris, for instance, Paris, Kentucky, they probably don't have anybody that's a tree person, but they have a groundspeople that, and when their tree
Mhm.
comes down, they go out and they take care of it. Well, that's a department that does take care of trees. So they have to either have somebody that's assigned to that, like a department that does take care of trees, or they need to have a tree board. Many of my very small communities that do not have do not have a department. Most of these, like in Louisville, I have all these little small towns in Louisville, as they all are. They are just tree boards on those, but either one of those, you have to have that. The other thing too is you have to have a community tree ordinance, and that needs to be in
Mhm.
place 24/7. You just can't have an ordinance like just for like development or something like that. It has to be an ordinance that says this is what we're going to do in our, you know, for our trees here in this town, and usually it just establishes policies for how they're going to plant the trees, how they're going to maintain the trees, and what they're going to do in order to remove the trees within the
Mhm.
city.
Is that
Something like
something that you could help advise on as
absolutely.
yeah,
And I work with communities all the time. I have sample tree ordinances that I use.
awesome.
There's
Great.
all sorts of, also just outside of me, there's all sorts of like the Chicago area tree ordinance builder. That's something that is I use quite a bit, and it's pretty cool because what it does is it says they have like three different levels of tree ordinances that you can adopt for different sections of the tree ordinance. It says this is our basic, this is the intermediate, and this is the gold standard. So basically, we're just trying to get a tree ordinance through. Now, there are going to be before the Arbor Day Foundation was, hey, we just need to just have a tree ordinance. Doesn't have to say what that tree ordinance is, but they are changing it starting next year as tree ordinances have to have some type of like a best management practices that they got to follow, usually from ISA, International Society of Arboriculture. There's also something called ANSI, which is the American National Standards Institute, on tree care. That it shows proper pruning, proper planting, stuff like that. And then they need to have a language in there that they're going to be following those types of those types of the
Maintenance.
processes and all that. So that's generally with the tree ordinance. The third thing they need to do is they need to have an annual budget of $2 per capita. Now, when I first started talking to city leaders, they're like, well, there's no way we're going to do that. A town of Paris is like, let's say, what, about 10,000 people, maybe now. So that's 20,000 people. They're thinking, we're not going to have a budget for 20,000, 20,000 for trees. It's like, it doesn't have to be only for trees. Leaf removal is tree care. Okay. We are
Mhm.
pretty liberal in what we call tree care and everything. Picking up branches when you're mowing can be tree care. Also, anytime if you are doing like utility work, if the city does its own utility work, that always goes into that too. So, most of my cities, it's a $2 per capita. I think most of my cities we're around $10, something like that.
Mhm.
Add everything together, plus any in-kind time, any volunteer time, stuff like that that goes into that. So usually, almost every town out there, they're already doing it, and it's just a matter of just putting it down on paper and seeing what we're looking at. And finally, it's the most fun thing. is celebrating Arbor Day. And that is just going out there in the spring or in the fall. Arbor Days any time of the year. You could, it doesn't have to be on Arbor Day, but honestly, fall Arbor Days work out better because you know why?
Mhm.
Weather is better.
Yeah, better time for trees.
And we
Fall
usually tell
trees.
people to, like, in Kentucky, it's most of the time better to plant trees, most trees in the fall
Exactly.
anyways. So, yeah.
No, exactly. And so we had, hey, Richmond, where I live now. Of course, when I found out that Richmond was not Tree City, USA, I had to
Blasphemy.
know. I people can accuse. Okay, I'll get into this in a second, but people can accuse me of. Here's the things, the towns I'm going after right now. Paris, because I went to high school there.
Personal connection. Yeah.
Personal connect. Yeah, Richmond. And then last year, for Tree Campus Higher Education, I got Murray State. Because
Nice.
it's my
Yeah.
alma mater. And so I got that too. So anyway, but the final thing is celebrating Arbor Day, and that's a fun thing. And honestly, once you start, once I think cities they start seeing Arbor Day, especially if you have kids involved with it. You're planting trees. You're giving, the mayor gives it the proclamation, Arbor Day proclamation, stuff like that. Like I said earlier, they start getting into it, and then they want to keep on doing it. And it's a really cool thing that we're doing, and it really kind of moves along on its own. So those are the basics on how to become a Tree City USA. And so right now we have 39 in Kentucky. We've had some brand new ones. Like I said, Richmond, Kentucky is the new one, although they have been Tree City USA years ago, but we kind of call them a brand new one now. Elizabethtown is one of our brand new ones. One of our smallest ones is a place in Louisville called Brownsboro Village. And they have a very active tree board there, and so they became Tree City USA this year. And we have some old ones too. It's Lexington is one of our oldest, along with the city of Anchorage. They've been Tree
Mhm.
City USA, I want to say 36 years.
Oh wow.
So that's a long, long time. So they've been going at it pretty good. So also one of the other things that I work on is called Tree Campus Higher Education.
Yeah.
I
I was
mentioned
going to
earlier.
ask about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I work with, and I love working with colleges and universities on that. It's just a lot of fun because a lot of the colleges and universities have so many beautiful trees on campus, and it's just a
Mhm.
slam dunk to just go ahead and try to get them to become Tree Campus USA. And there are standards that they also have to meet on that too. But the main thing is they just need to they have to have a tree advisory board, which is usually made up of a faculty member, but students also are on
Mhm.
this, and then somebody from like the facilities management staff, and maybe and then a community member would be really nice. We love to have like an arborist or something like that, a certified arborist to serve not only on just Tree Campus USA's, but also on Tree City USA's, if we can find them, just to help provide a little bit more technical information for them.
Mhm.
Yeah, and but it's a great program. I think I have about 13 Tree Campus USA. University of Kentucky is one. When they
I
first
was afraid to
started,
ask
what's that?
yeah, I
Yeah.
was afraid to ask if UK was one. Good. We're representing. Awesome. Yeah.
Hey, all the regional universities except I'm not going to name. Oh, I'll name them. No, I'm not going to name them. I have two regional
Call them
universities.
out. Call them out.
Well, I'm going to be working with them, and it's only just sometimes it's just me getting the time to contact these people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. Because once I start talking about it, they are really, really just they're really excited about it once we get going. But Northern Kentucky University, I really need to get with them on that one, and Morehead University, I really need to get with
Yeah.
them on that. I have some interest in it. I just got to make the phone call.
And Moorhead's got some beautiful trails and a lot of beautiful trees.
No,
So should be a good fit for Moorhead out in
it
Rowan County.
is.
Yeah.
It is. And you know what? And one of the things that we're trying to do with our program is we want to get it expanded beyond, what we can call the golden circle, like a golden triangle, I
Mhm.
guess, which is Northern Kentucky, Louisville, Lexington, central Kentucky, and try to get this more out into Western Kentucky, which I have a few Tree City USA trees out there, and then I have, but I have a dearth. I have Corbin, which is one that I have in Eastern Kentucky, and I got to get some more out there, and so we're trying to
We
get
got to
this
get you hooked up with the agents out there to push.
exactly. And see, this is what I'm hoping for. Your big reach with the
Mhm.
horticulture podcast, because every agent listens to this, so they need to contact
They better.
me. And now I'm going to say my best friends, Brett, Ray, and Alexis, told me that you all need to talk to me. So,
Mhm.
but
'Cause it's
us,
really not that bad, especially now that you're here. I mean, before you were here and there were just not enough people to go around to, if we had questions, it just could take a while and it wasn't anybody's fault. It was just, there's not enough time in the day. And so, it's so much easier now and it's all online and, you really, uh, I was the person who would put it in and it wasn't that bad. The hardest part was just reaching out to the city workers for the maintenance report on what they did so I could put a number to it and be like, just give it to me. I know you have it in a spreadsheet somewhere. Give it to me.
yeah,
And I,
Use
I
me.
finally got their cell phone numbers and I was like, if you don't give me this, we're going to fight. And they would lay and then I'd be like, Jack, I'm so sorry. I just got this. Can I turn it in still? And it was a whole ordeal.
It was
But
a whole thing.
that's it. It does help you connect with your city workers, and because of that connection, they would call me to educate, like to teach their guys how to prune better. And so there was a connection made there through Tree City that I could just be with the maintenance people, and they knew to call me about trees if they had a question or needed some training. And so that was a really good connection to have, and it was all because I had to shake them down for Tree City stuff. So.
yeah, yeah. Occasionally I have to do the same thing.
Let's call it a forceful follow up.
Well, it's
Me,
just
he's
kind
had
of
to
like
do it
this.
with me, and I was like, it's not my fault.
Yeah. No, 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 Alexis, you were great. When you were in Bull County, you were fantastic,
Thanks.
and I really appreciate all you did down for the city of Danville. And they are still Tree City USA. So
Great. Proud of them. I set them up. I was like, listen, guys, this is what it's
you
due. Here's all the things that you need. Here's the step by step. I also already told Jack that I'm leaving and that you're the person. So
exactly. And I contacted them right away, and they sent that, and they
sweet.
got their
You're
application.
wonderful.
Yeah, and they
I
got it.
also wanted to tell you about just again like a brag, but not a brag on like me, a brag on my community and the way Tree City played into that, and for agents or other people interested in Tree City, potential for something they could do. So we Danville was Tree City USA, and kind of to meet those needs, they applied for other grants, one of them being KU Plant for the Planet grant, which was a like a 50-50. The community raised and 50% of the money to plant trees. And the Danville Center College community is very big tree lovers. And so it was not
Yes,
a difficult thing to do. And so
yes,
in the 10 years that I was there, I think we planted, 500, 700 trees or something like that. Because of this grant, because we had Tree City and it was sort of like a push, we were like, we want to be Tree City every year. So we got to get some trees in the ground. And, we didn't have to tell them that we were way over our capita anyways. So, right. But we wanted to do that. And through that, an endowment was able to be started with some of the extra funds, because our guys could only plant so many trees. So that money would go into an account to, replace a tree every now and then. And we got good stock. And so that money built up to the point where a small endowment was created. Um, and a position that we fondly called the Lorax came out of that. And what that was it basically an internship, a fellowship, an internship, and it was a partnership between the extension office and the city. And that person, which was usually a student or student age, would spend about 20 hours a week working with the trees. And so
Oh,
they would go out with the guys and they would put water in the gator bags on all the new trees. They would keep better like maps. Like we had an idea of where trees were, but these were people interested in trees, so they would ID them and say, all of your oaks are along this strip or wherever, and just categorize them. This one needs replaced, that kind of information. So it's on its third year this year, and so that is partially paid for by the endowment and partially paid for by the extension office. And that student does another 20 hours of interning with extension and then 20 hours with the city trees, so to speak. And so, anyways, it's been a really cool program and a really good partnership that's formed because of that. And I really do feel like it all comes back to, we're a tree city, we got to stay a tree city. So here's all the things we're going to do to stay a tree city. And so I think that overarching umbrella was a motivator. So I just wanted to tell you all about it.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's a great. I love hearing that.
Yeah.
It really, because honestly, it comes from citizens too, and to become Tree City USA, and that's where it really comes to. I mean, I can approach city managers and stuff like that and say, hey, let's think about coming to Tree City USA. Most of them are pretty receptive to it, but honestly, listen, I don't know if you all what extension's like, but you know, I do know how it's like.
So, yes, you do.
We're asked to do more with a lot less, and so what they're doing is they're doing the calculations in their head of, is this one more thing we got to do, and stuff like that. So that's why we get citizens involved. At least get citizens involved in order to maybe form a tree board, which is nice, which is what I always recommend for communities to have. And I also would recommend, just to help start off, letting citizens help out doing the Arbor Day, planning and stuff like that. And once cities start seeing that, then they want to start, becoming much more involved.
And trees are like the sea turtles, right? It's usually an easy sell for most people because
like
they want
butterflies
shaded
and sea
sidewalks.
turtles.
They want more trees in the baseball park so they're not sitting in the sun. They want trees. And so they want to take care of the ones they have. Usually they all have fond memories of, a big tree that they had at their school or whatever. And so it's an easy, in my opinion, from that perspective, it's a pretty easy sell usually to get people on board to meet a couple times a year to say, like, this is what we think should be done with the trees, mayor. And the mayor goes, great. And then boom, checklist.
Well,
And
it's something positive for the city leaderships
Yeah.
or town leaderships or whatever the administrative leadership structure is. It's a positive thing. Lots of positive vibes with that program. From all the press that I've seen, throughout time, I didn't know where it's coming from, but I mean, there's lots of happy people in all of those pictures. So that's good.
Well, absolutely.
Ray and Alexis are more logistical people. I'm more of a how to win hearts and minds, because if my extension funding runs out, I might just go full cult leader. So I'm just thinking about how to sway people, how to win friends and influence people. And I'm curious because you have this very unique vantage point, not only of having seen this stuff across time, but also across geographic areas. And I'm curious if you've seen like what is it about trees and planting them and putting them in that kind of most sways people now? And is that different? Has that changed across time? I think about like the rise of, pollinator habitat as an interest in a lot of places. That seems to have happened over the last 15 years or so. Or the, energy costs and cost of living, and shade as a mechanism for that is another one. Rainwater, flooding, etc. I'm just curious, like, not so much that you're going in and pitching people, but sometimes you are maybe. But what tends to sway people, or what is it that they're looking for out of trees, or what messages resonate? And any reflections across your career about that?
Oh, thank you, Brad. That's a great question. Usually, I just kind of approach it to where, trees are just, like you said, they're just gorgeous. I mean, you got so many different types of trees. I mean, how many grasses we have? We have like what, 5 or 6 different species of grasses that we have. We have hundreds of different types of trees out there. Not all of them should go in the same place or in the same area, but trees are just gorgeous and they're beautiful, and they were here before we got here. And so it's just wonderful thing to have. I would have loved to have been able to been here 100 years ago to see the chestnuts, as the
Mhm.
chestnuts were growing here in downtown areas and places like that. Um, I lived in Frederick, Maryland, for about 10 years, and we had downtown trees, and they would put like lights on them in the wintertime, for Christmas. It was gorgeous, and it would just attract people from all over to
Mhm.
come to Frederick for they had like this first Saturday night thing, and so people would just come to the come downtown to look at the lights and stuff like that. And right now, I see the big thing is we need to get trees back in downtown areas again.
Mm.
There's none,
Yeah.
but it's going to take some planning. It's going to take a lot of planning to be able to do something like that. But I just really feel though that one thing I always say about trees is trees are our love letter to our future generations. We're planting trees for people who are never going to know who we were, you know,
Mhm.
and that's just something that we say, and that's what kind of motivates me. Yes, it's a little foo-foo, and I love it because it's just
Brett's
You're
thinking,
in
I
good
like the
company.
property values increase. He's
yeah, property
calculating the
values
economics.
increase.
Yeah.
And yes, you're right. If you put and okay, I know you guys are University of Kentucky people, but the University of Louisville is actually doing a lot of good studies on trees and health.
Oh,
Mhm.
And
awesome.
they're documenting scientific reasons why trees are. If you have a hospital bed that looks out toward trees, that helps people recover. Now, I'm not saying
Mhm.
that's the recovery. That's not, just because of the trees, but trees help add something to that. People like being around trees. People just love a tree area. It just looks good, and that's the things we tried to get across is, and so, honestly, sometimes I do get some pushback from cities. You know what this pushback's going to be? You can probably guess.
Liabilities?
That's
No.
one, but leaves.
Oh, yeah.
They
Mhm.
don't want to take care of
Cost
the
of
leaves.
removal. Yeah.
Yeah, and,
Put
and,
you in
and
a willow oak and shut your mouth,
yeah,
okay?
that will. If you get a honey locust, you don't need to worry about that.
Yeah.
So
It's fine.
it's fine.
It's
And you know
fine.
what? Your trees are going to be what you mentioned before is the savings on cost. Bringing people downtown is or a tree area. That's going to be well worth the cost, and you're going to be whistling as you clean up those leaves.
Mhm.
That come
I
down.
always gravitate
Yeah.
to those areas on vacation or when I'm traveling. The first thing I notice is usually, I don't know, I've always noticed the trees. Like when I go to Savannah, the first thing I notice is
Oh,
the
yeah.
trees or some of these cities that you can tell there's an obvious value over time that have been placed on design and care for trees or other plant materials in cities, yeah, especially trees, which is long term care. I always notice that first, and I always enjoy those areas. The noise is not as bad. I love to walk under the shade because I'm very pale. I mean, there's so many other like benefits that you see and benefits that you don't see. I notice
When
those things constantly.
Yeah. It's true, and, like, when Danville redid their city, they got grant and
Yes.
redid their streetscape, and the trees were a big part of it. Now, the company, I X all of their tree suggestions, but one of the things that, like, they did is they weren't putting in tiny tree coffins, right? They put in
Yes.
permeable pavement, they put in really large is it a perfect situation? No, but it was way better, and they, highlighted native species and diversity. There's 4 or 5 different ones down Main Street, and because they knew and they put them specifically where they would shade seating areas, and so they it was so smart, and they knew that
Hmm.
it was worth the money to spend to get them in there and getting a good size. And it was, yes, I mean, from, again, as a logistical person, it's important, but we see how people just enjoy their time more and have a good experience
Hmm.
when there's more
Well,
trees.
I've
And
talked to
so,
local real estate agents, and we're in Scott. I actually live in Scott County, work in Bourbon County. And Scott County is I don't know, the fastest or tied for the fastest
Hmm.
growing community in the state. Tons of new neighborhoods here. And real estate agents, I've talked to many of them, and they say one of the first questions that comes up well, does it have trees around the house? Are they mature trees? And that kind of surprised me. And they were like, no, it's definitely a home with an established planting, established landscape, especially mature, healthy trees. They said that definitely adds value to properties. And when I go through a new neighborhood, the houses may be beautiful and well designed and have lots of diversity in architecture and all of that. But a neighborhood just doesn't feel like a neighborhood to me until it has tree cover. I've always been
Mhm.
like that. And that helped me pick the neighborhood that I'm in now. It had about 15, 18-year tree cover, a good diversity of trees, and it's along a creek that's almost a river. But it was as much about the
Place for your house
trees.
then. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I look for those things. So I guess it shouldn't have surprised me that this real estate agent says, no, that adds value, actually economic value as well as, emotional support and stuff like that. So real world value.
Yeah. No, absolutely. There's so many, neighborhood I live in actually is kind of the opposite,
Hmm.
and one of the things I would love to be able to do is work with developers in, on some of these towns and say, put a tree in. It's not that expensive,
Hmm.
put a good tree in and
Yeah.
plant it
Mhm.
correctly, because that's one of the things too. And Alexis, you mentioned it about these tree coffins that we have in downtown.
Mhm.
Listen, I'm all for it. The average city tree. I think we've all may have heard this statistic once before, but the average city tree lasts 7 years. You know, because that's the fact that we don't take care of them. And
Mhm.
so, I'm from a school of, you know, I want these trees to be there for 40 years, 50, 60 years and stuff like that. And, and we got to plant them correctly. And we do need to do some engineering for some engineering soils. We got to come up with some creative ways to come downtown. One creative way that we thought about was, we can't just put them in sidewalks because, well, people got to move, but you can take a few parking spaces away and make those your tree areas, and you can have like a plenty of root space and plenty stuff like that. Put a nice bench there, and so that's good. You can do all sorts of really neat things downtown. So I'm hoping I'm around when I can do that.
So many pros, and
Well,
it doesn't sound like
Before
the cost of getting in that's too much. So
before
yeah,
Alexis
awesome.
leads us out,
Yeah.
so I think to be clear, it hurts my heart to try to put these things in economic terms, but my brain knows that that's something that happens and needs to, yeah. Anyway, but
part of
so
the
I'm
As a
gonna
fellow
challenge us. I'm
economist.
looking for some reason. I'm looking specifically at Alexis. I'm going to challenge all of us to actually take a moment, maybe in this week or in the coming weeks, and go find a nice tree and just sit under it and do nothing else but sit under it and breathe and appreciate it. We say these are beautiful, these are amazing, but do we take the time in our lives to do that? I'm challenging all of our listeners too to go and do that, form that connection, form that
take a
take that.
snack.
Take a snack.
If you
Yeah.
can eat, yeah, we'll allow eating we'll allow avocado cream chips
Yeah,
under the.
take those definitely. You know,
Ginger snaps.
no,
Pet
that's
your dog.
I think we call that forest bathing.
Mm.
Just soak it
Actually,
in.
yeah, I actually came across that term this last year. I was at a conference up in Chicago with the Arbor Day Society, or the Arbor Day Foundation put it on, and they had all sorts of people on, and they talked about forest bathing, and yeah, I mean, honestly, sit underneath a tree is one of the best things to do. It
Oh
really
yeah.
is. So, Brett, definitely, I'm going to do the same thing.
Super solid ask. I will definitely do that, Brett.
Well, awesome. So we are going to put Jack's contact information in our show notes. So all of you who are raring to go about becoming a Tree City USA in
One of my
Kentucky can
heroes.
contact Jack. But they can also, Jack, where can they go if they're in the US but outside of Kentucky to figure out how to do Tree City USA? The Arbor Day
Yeah,
Foundation?
the Arbor Day Foundation. Just Google that up on your Google machine, and you'll come right up with Arbor Day Foundation. It will tell you how to get involved. If you want to get your city involved in something like that, they can do that. And then what will happen is a very nice person from the state, such as myself, will be contacting you and saying, "Yes, I will. I will be around to
How
help
can
you."
I help you?
And
Yes.
yes, I'm here. I'm from the government. I'm here to help.
Yes.
So,
As a public
Like about
speaker, yeah.
trees, so really I am here to help. So
yes,
Yes,
I
absolutely.
am.
Other
You know,
states, we apologize in advance in case the person from your state isn't as cool as Jack, but
yeah.
we have
no,
him here and
it's
we're
going to be
proud
For
of
it's
it.
now we
hard.
can't have
So,
him.
sorry, not sorry.
It's hard. I've met a lot of my other partnership coordinators, and yeah, a lot of them are pretty on the ball. You know, so, more
So
so than
we're in
me.
good shape. It attracts good people is what I'm
Yeah.
hearing.
Yeah, the
So
trees and nature and forestry, it attracts good people. I'm with you,
yeah.
It
Alexis. Yeah.
does attract good people, and
Yeah.
it's a really cool thing. So it keeps me away from my
Awesome.
other job that I was going to have, and which when I told everybody in Fairfax I was retiring, I was going to become a tree psychic. So um, you know,
There's
Does that
always
involve
plan B,
reading
right?
leaves?
Second retirement.
what's
So
that?
second retirement.
I said, does
Yeah.
that involve reading leaves?
Reading
Well,
the
it just involves me going put my hands on a tree and let
I
them
see.
know that, especially if a tree may be at risk of failing, I'm going to say, listen, this tree needs to go. This tree needs to be able to, it's time for us to go. Let's
a
remember
tree
for what
talker.
it once
Mm,
was.
mm.
Return it back to the earth, right? That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. So hopefully you don't have to return any trees to the earth in the next week, and you can
Yes,
instead go sit under one
I
and
will.
have a snack, or just think about how much you love this podcast. That would be great. And you can, if you're in Kentucky, you can contact Jack. You can follow us on social media after you're done forest bathing. Pick your phone back up and then go on and follow Hort Culture on social media. You can also shoot us an email if you've got questions or comments. We love your comments. We appreciate those of you who reach out and just say, hey, was a great episode, because that really lifts our day and we appreciate it so much. But we thank you so much for being here, and we hope that you will join us next week. Have a great one.